Kogo News Time, 5:11.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed into law a measure targeting sanctuary cities in that state, but he did it in an unusual way on Facebook Live.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining me this evening as I sign a law that will ban sanctuary cities in Texas.
Immigration attorney and adjunct professor of law at SMU, Eric Cedillo, joining us on the Kogo News Live line. And Eric, protesters were gearing up for a big one, and this effectively shut them down, and they're apparently not happy. Is that why Governor Abbott did it this way on Facebook Live?
I think that's one of the reasons. It turns out that when he did it Sunday evening, they actually filed a lawsuit. The state of Texas sued a local sheriff there in Austin, the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and a few others on a declaratory judgment, basically in anticipation of lawsuits being filed against them. So I think there was a combination of things. Certainly the protest, about 24 people were arrested last week in protest at the Capitol. So to avoid that, that may have been one of the reasons. But I think the biggest was to, file the initial lawsuit and kind of frame the issues from the beginning.
What does the law actually say?
Sounds a few things. I think the primary reason for it, according to the governor before the session started, was to make sure that all sheriffs were complying with the ICE detainers that were issued by the federal government. It's purely a voluntary process. The federal government can't force these folks to honor the ICE detainers. They're civilized detainers, and various sheriffs have been sued by individuals claiming constitutional violations. So lots of the sheriffs said, well, if it's voluntary, I'll do part of it, or we'll do it if it's a serious crime. I don't think Governor Abbott and the folks that support him like that. So I think that was the impetus behind the actual bill itself. And then it kind of morphed into something else. There were several amendments which included what people are purporting to be called show me your papers information, which allow for local law enforcement to actually ask immigration status even when you've just been detained, which could be, a minor traffic violation. So it's a situation that I think there's going to be a lot of contentions with respect to whether or not this is constitutional.
Now, aren't there certain parts of Texas that are a lot more, I want to say liberal, maybe Austin, San Antonio, who are having a very hard time with this as opposed to some of the other big cities or even parts of East and West Texas?
Absolutely. They're, state of Texas is very big. We've got lots of situations. Dallas is actually is becoming a very liberal city. But Austin, the sheriff there made the most vocal pronouncement that she wasn't going to honor certain ICE detainers. So I think, the governor actually included her in this lawsuit, this declaratory judgment, specifically suing her and, the Austin City Council. So it was certainly, different parts of the state have different views on things, but I think all of the major cities, especially the sheriffs and the police chiefs in those areas, were really anti-SB4. So it's a situation that there's going to be a lot of fallout because of it, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out.
And kind of looking at it from the other side, if you have different municipalities in different counties approaching laws in different ways, isn't that pretty much it seems like a recipe for chaos, because you just never know who's going to do what?
Well, it's really the authority given to these sheriffs to determine whether or not they're voluntarily, are going to honor these voluntary requests. But you're right to the extent that the Texas legislature has kind of spoken on it and said, hey, look, we're going to make this uniform, and you can't just do this or obey these laws, is what they purport. But quite honestly, they aren't laws. It truly is a request. The 10th Amendment precludes the federal government from conscribing these local law enforcement agencies to implement or take part in the practice of immigration. So that's why it's voluntary. It's why the whole problem, the whole process is voluntary, and it is subject, or it's within the purview of the sheriffs to make that determination of whether or not they're going to honor them. So it's going to be a real big question the court's going to be looking at.
It will be. All right, Eric, thank you so much. That is Eric Cedillo joining us on the Kogo News Live line. He's an immigration attorney.